I searched the whole entire book talk on the very easy quest of finding viral romance books that might melt my heart or make me bang my head against the wall. Finally, I managed to settle on 4 books that I think are the most representative for romance book talk at this moment. And I'm going to start with the weirdest of them all, which is Butcher and Blackbird by Brian Weaver. It is a dark romance comedy, and it's supposed to be quite gory and explicit and a bit spicy. Also, the content warnings were a bit concerning, to be honest. It's first lovers, he falls first for her, and it is basically a Dexter kind of thing. So they are both murderers, and they are always going for the very bad guys. Murderers of murderers. First of all, it wasn't exactly my cup of tea because at times it was quite boring, but at the same time, weirdly enjoyable because it was somewhat relatable. And I'm sorry to say this, but I just cannot really imagine them being murderers for real. It just doesn't fit the narrative for me. The scene absolutely cracked me up. The hunting knife. Where'd you get it? My gaze lingers on the body and my favorite blade before I press my cheeks to my drawn-up knees. Etsy. I just didn't expect that. English is my second language, so I don't really text in English, but if I were to do that, I am much rather an emoji type of girl than whatever this is. Maybe people write like this, but I thought it was quite funny and cringe, to be honest. The guy is named Rowan and the girl is named Sloane. And I don't really like Rowan or Sloane. Since everything is basically a parody to an extent, I can't really take anything too seriously. For example, any deep thoughts like, did I ever really free her, or will I be her destruction? A tad bit cringe, but don't worry, since she likes using the word milking so often, there is not much left to destroy anyway, so Rowan, you can relax. Sloane has a plethora of piercings in her private parts, which I couldn't help myself but to search on Google while reading. Very interesting part in the book. I am a slower burn girly, and I like more sensual interaction rather than, well, whatever this book was. Essentially, for the first 30% of the book, I was like, oh, so they kill awful people. Cool. The next 20% was like, okay, so are they getting together or what? From 50% on, it was just too much of getting together. I was begging for it to stop because my mind's eyes were literally burning. Spicy scenes can be very enjoyable in some books, even if they're very explicit. And at the same time, they can be very disgusting. And this book was rather disgusting, especially when I read the word milking. Any desire for me to read about their spicy encounter fades away. There was no build-up, and he was basically in love with her from page 2. No character development. I know nothing about Sloane's backstory. Shouldn't I know why she's killing all these people? Having commitment issues and being possessive isn't a tale of really deranged people. They're supposed to be bonkers, so why am I not getting that? I didn't really buy the fact that they really are murderers. But I think I had way too many expectations from a comedic book, and that's why I'm so disappointed. Respectfully, I could have spent my time way better if he had been with me, which I have the book. It's about Autumn and Finny, who were childhood best friends but grew apart, but they still love each other. Are they going to end up together? What's going to happen? That's the premise of the book. It's supposed to be a heartwarming high school romance, which from the very start isn't the most appealing for me, especially when I read this on the cover. Autumn has her boyfriend Jamie and her close-knit group of friends. Finn has become that boy at school, the one everyone wants to be around. So if this didn't convince me that I wouldn't like the book, then the writing definitely did. From the very first chapter. First off, I don't get the repetitions. Like, I see Sylvie tell them the cause of the argument, and I know. What do you know? But of course, they all make sense now. Everything is fine. Also, me and Finny and Sylvie and what? Don't we have comas? Or is it everything a stylistic choice? The older girls on the squad who had seemed so nice. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 O's. Why? So I'm gonna read a short paragraph for you so you get the cadence of the writing style. On the last day of school, Alexis and Taylor and Victoria all came to class with their hair in braids. They hadn't told us that it was going to be a braid day. We always wore our hair in braids on the same day, but I wasn't a popular girl. I was different. I was strange. So I decided to give up and be the weird girl again. It just doesn't sound good. The sentences are just very short and they seem so childish. It was very, very repetitive. Also, we have the Jamie, James, Jamie. Jamie, I think Jamie, Jamie. And let me tell you, in this paragraph here, I have Christmas on every single line. Talk about every Christmas to this Christmas is the best Christmas, is the best Christmas, Christmas, last Christmas, Christmas was Christmas is then like Christmas, spending Christmas. I mean, I just don't know what else to say. And we can't forget the very stereotypical American high school issues with the tables. When the weather turns cold, the war breaks out. So I was expecting something, right? No, they're at our table, she says. What? I say. I cannot believe this. The table they took was inarguably ours. No one changes tables halfway through the school year. This is an act of hostility. But it is hostility. Every other group has claimed their table and stuck to it. Just like last year. This is about more than a table. And throughout the book, this childish thing with the table stuck under the name of the war. I despise in books, in every book, when I hear them saying their whole entire name. I love you, Jake Allen. I mean, why do you need to say the whole entire name? It's just weird. Can you say I love you, Jake? I love you, Jake, very much. Whatever. I just don't like that. I think it's very, very cringe. Even though there are a lot of things I didn't like about the book, I forced myself to continue reading, and halfway through it, I started to somewhat ignore the writing style and just see it as part of the book, and I was interested in what was going to happen with Autumn and Finney. Are they going to be together? There were certain sweet moments between her and Finney. Once I was starting to see the nice bits of the book, and I really was happily waiting for the end and expecting a decent ending to the story, the author just completely ruined it for me. And not only was it not anything good, but the ending was very sad and unforgiving, if that makes any sense. And at the end, I was left thinking, what was the whole point of me reading this book? I didn't even like it, and I'm also sad about it. And I understand there is another book from his perspective, and I can't imagine myself reading this slightly boring book again, just so I can get to the sad part again. I think if you were to change the writing style, change the ending, change half of it, then maybe it could have been a good book. BookTok really lied about this one. I specifically avoided this book for the longest time ever. And I mean, I had to eventually read it if I were to talk about romance BookTok. And I did. Jock-style romance isn't my thing, and the book seemed targeted towards 12 to 14-year-old girls. That's what the cover tells me. But apparently it is very explicit and has a lot of sex scenes. And I was expecting not to like it at all. You probably know what it is about, but if you don't, it's a sports college romance between a figure skater and a hockey player. Basically, they are forced to share ice time and work together to help her for a competition, and they end up falling in love. First, I want to tell you two quotes or whatever excerpt. If something awful happens, have I said fuck? And the next one is during a spicy scene, and the guy says, "Oh, shooting fuck Stacy." Basically, a lot of it is sex, and the main conflict is somewhat childish and I didn't like it. The fact that they end up working together, teamwork and training together to help her out was my favorite part, and I would have liked more of that instead of sex, because I thought that that was much more interesting, and I would have liked more about ice time, more descriptive about her program and what he was learning and just the fun stuff, how they were bonded. There were also a lot of sweet moments between them, friendship, betrayal at the same time, and really, in the end, it was a quite sweet book. I thought it was going to be really bad, but I ended up quite enjoying their love story. All the smut and all the spicy scenes, at first, they are a bit fun for the first page or so, but after that, you're like, okay, like, I get the idea. Can we move on? That's something I didn't like all that much. But it was just a happy, laid-back comfort read. Some Goodreads reviews say that it was too much going on. No, it wasn't. I mean, I want as much as it can happen to happen because I get bored very easily, so I don't really get the too much happening. I like intricate plot and suspense and all that, and a lot of books that I quite enjoyed didn't have that, because that's why when I find a very good book, I just can't get my hands off of it and I go feral if someone stops me from reading. This one is not amongst those type of books, but what did anyone expect? It's a contemporary romance, smutty. It's just a comfortable read on a Sunday when you have nothing else to do, and I am fine with it. This one definitely made the grumpy and sunshine trope one of my absolute favorites. I also avoided any of Ellie Hazelwood's books because of the cover, to be honest. It's not that appealing to me. Any of these drawing styles, I like them visually, but they're not appealing in the sense that I might enjoy what's in the book. But surprisingly, I did. Very much so. I read The Love Hypothesis in one sitting, and I can't tell you how many times I found myself giggling and kicking my feet in the air. It is a rom-com about Olive, a PhD student who ends up fake dating one of her professors because she wants to convince her best friend that she's over her ex. But they end up dating for real and falling in love. And it was the most heartwarming thing I have ever read. It's a third person, and I was not expecting it to be that casual. After a few pages, I started to see the appeal of it because it was like Olive talking about herself in the third person and being my best friend. Something like that. Very, very funny interaction. It was very comforting, and her best friend Anne was supposed to not know that her relationship was fake for most of the book, but she gets Olive in this hilarious, very embarrassing situations, which make me think that she secretly knows that she's fake dating and she's just doing it to embarrass her as much as possible, but she doesn't know. I just can't tell you how much I laughed while reading this book. At the beginning of their fake relationship, Olive wants to set some ground rules with Adam the professor. And here I got a reference that just made me laugh my heart out. I think it would be best if we laid down some ground rules before starting. Ground rules? Yeah, you know, what we are allowed and not allowed to do, what we can expect from this arrangement. I think that's pretty standard protocol before embarking on a fake dating relationship. He tilted his head. Standard protocol? Yeah. How many times have you done this? 0, but I'm familiar with the trope. The what? I don't know why it made me laugh so much, but it did. It is a true rom-com that I held to that standard, and it didn't disappoint at all. I wanted to be relaxed and laugh and be just in love with it, which happened. All the coincidences, even though sometimes I really expected, I just liked them all. And also this arrangement helps her out so much. It just lines everything perfectly for her. Adam is supposed to be the rude, grumpy guy, and he is with everyone else, with her sometimes, but in a funny way. But most of all, he's very sweet towards her. He's so grumpy and hilarious, and he's afraid of needles. A 6 foot something, really muscular guy is afraid of needles. I don't know. I'm just so basic, and I love all these things. You get almost 2 whole chapters of spice with this book. And usually I would say that is a bit too much in certain situations because it is quite explicit. But with this book, it kind of worked because I waited for so long for them to get together, and they finally do, and their attraction and there's passion, and it just works. Certain details were, but overall, I absolutely loved it. It was just the sweetest book I have ever read, and I ordered 2 other Ali Hazelwood books, which seem to be along the same type of story, which I am so eager to get and read. All the 4 books I've read for this video are completely different from one another, and that's what TikTok is. An ocean of options from which you need to learn what to pick. I'm so happy I found the love hypothesis after reading this, because if the 4th book would have been also bad or average like Icebreaker, I would have been quite annoyed, but I'm happy because I really found one of my favorite books. Thanks for watching. Glad I could inform you on a few of BookTok's favorites. If you like romance books, fantasy books, both of them combined, maybe some horror sometimes, and you are up to try different types of books, then you might enjoy my content. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.